I was left by a millionaire CEO while pregnant. 18 years later, our secret daughter shocked him at his gala as a business star. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. Today, I come to you with the kind of joy that brings tears to my eyes. I've officially become a grandmother. My dear son, Will Peter, has been blessed with a beautiful, healthy baby boy, and our Queen Binta is glowing with joy. This is not just our happiness. It's yours too, because you are truly a part of our family. And now, my precious family, I need your love, your ideas, and your hearts. We are searching for a name for this little angel. A name full of meaning, love, and legacy. And I want it to come from you. Please write your most beautiful name suggestions in the comments. The name that moves us the most will receive a special gift from me from the bottom of my heart. Let's name this baby boy as a family. Now, with hearts full of love, let's begin the story. This is my story. The notification email arrived at 2:47 a.m. It felt like a message beamed straight from another universe, pinging my phone with an unexpected brightness in the dark. I was already awake, tossing and turning, trying to get my body to settle down after a 12-hour shift that included 2 hours waiting tables and a cleanup gig at a dental office. When I read it for the 4th time, I still couldn't quite believe that my 18-year-old daughter, Phoebe, had just been selected to speak at the most prestigious business gala in the state. I sat on the edge of our Murphy bed in the tiny studio apartment that had been home for the past 3 years. I watched Phoebe sleep peacefully just a few feet away. Her brow was furrowed slightly, probably dreaming about market projections or her 4.0 GPA. She was completely unaware that her life, and mine, was about to change forever. I stood up quietly and tiptoed to the tiny kitchen area. The apartment was small enough that every movement felt amplified. The thin walls meant we lived with the rhythm of our neighbors, but it also meant Phoebe and I had developed an intimacy and an awareness of each other that few families ever achieve. I started making coffee with the ancient machine that required a specific, forceful slap, what I call percussive maintenance, just to get the water to heat up. It hissed and grumbled its complaint, but eventually, the dark liquid began to drip. Outside our single window, the city was just starting to stir. Delivery trucks rumbled down the streets, their engines echoing in the pre-dawn quiet. Early commuters hurried toward the bus stops, their faces drawn with the familiar determination of people trying to build something better from whatever circumstances life had handed them. I had been one of those people once, 20 years ago. I was full of dreams and ambition and the naive belief that love could conquer any obstacle. That was before I learned that some obstacles were designed to be insurmountable, especially when you were 19 years old, pregnant, with no savings, no family support, and no idea how to fight an enemy with unlimited resources. At 18, Phoebe possessed the kind of natural brilliance that couldn't be taught. She had a drive that came from watching me work myself to exhaustion just to keep food on the table and the utility bills paid. She had built a profitable consulting business, advising small, local nonprofits and startups, all while maintaining her perfect grades. The irony of the situation hit me with a jolt of cold realization, much sharper than the caffeine. My magnificent young woman had been invited to speak at an event hosted by Bohr Industries, the same company owned by the man who'd walked out of our lives before Phoebe was even born. Cyrus Bohr. Even thinking his name after 18 years felt like touching a live wire. It was a name I had successfully buried beneath layers of financial statements, minimum wage schedules, and endless late-night study sessions. The memory of him was a ghost I rarely let into the daylight. Mom? Phoebe's voice was soft but instantly alert. She'd always been a light sleeper, probably from years of living in places where being aware of your surroundings was a survival skill. Everything okay? You're up early even for you. I turned to find her sitting up in bed, her beautiful, natural hair forming a soft crown around her face. Her eyes were bright with the intelligence that had gotten her into college on a full academic scholarship despite every disadvantage the world had thrown at her. I got an email about the Pinnacle Investment Gala, I said, holding up my phone. You've been selected as one of 5 young entrepreneurs to present to the investor panel. Phoebe's eyes went wide, then narrowed with that focused intensity she always got when she was processing important information. The Pinnacle Gala? That's huge, Mom. Those are the people who write checks with more zeros than most people see in a lifetime. I know, baby. This could be exactly the opportunity you've been working toward. She scrambled out of bed, suddenly fully awake, and started pacing our small space with the restless energy that always accompanied her biggest moments. When is it? What do I need to prepare? How formal is the presentation? Do they want business plans or just pitches? Watching her excitement, I felt my heart swell with pride, but also break with a cold terror. This was Phoebe's moment, the chance to step onto a stage where her brilliance could finally be recognized by people with the power to change her life. But it was also the moment when our carefully constructed world would collide with the past I had spent 18 years trying to escape. The gala is in 2 weeks, I said, scrolling through the email details. 15-minute presentations, followed by a networking reception. Black tie event at the Grand Meridian Ballroom. Black tie? Phoebe repeated, her excitement dimming slightly as reality set in. Mom, I don't exactly have black tie attire in my custody of my closet. I looked at my daughter, this incredible young woman who could command a boardroom but worried about having the right dress for it, and felt the familiar surge of protectiveness that had sustained us both. We'll figure it out, I said firmly. We always do. But even as Phoebe dove into her laptop to research the other presenters and prepare her materials, I found myself staring at the email header that listed the event host. Cyrus Bohr, CEO, Bohr Industries. 18 years, 7 months, and 12 days since I'd last seen him. Not that I was counting. I poured myself a second cup of coffee, staring out at the city. The aroma of the cheap instant coffee was the only thing cutting through the memory that was now vivid in my mind. Cyrus. He was 22 then, brilliant and passionate. He was completely convinced that love, our love, could overcome any obstacle his wealthy family might put in our way. I remember the way he used to look at me, like I was the most fascinating person in any room, despite the fact that I came from a world where people like me were invisible unless they were serving coffee or cleaning offices. Our love affair was a secret from his family, but it never felt shameful. It felt precious, something too beautiful and fragile to expose to people who wouldn't understand. We spent hours in the library studying together. He patiently explained complicated economic theories while I helped him see the human cost of policies that looked good on paper but devastated real communities. I was working 3 jobs even then, determined to earn my business degree despite having no family money to fall back on. He never made me feel lesser for my circumstances. Instead, he seemed to admire my determination. He often said he learned more about real strength from watching me navigate a single day than he'd learned from a lifetime of inheritance and privilege. I remember the first time we made love, in his dorm room on a snow-covered February night. I felt like I was claiming something that belonged to me by right, rather than by luck. He was gentle and reverent, treating my body like something sacred, whispering promises about our future that made me believe in fairy tales. I'm going to marry you someday, Willa Bunbury, he'd said afterward, tracing patterns on my bare shoulder while the snow fell outside his window. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never have to work 3 jobs just to survive. For 8 months, I believed him. For 8 months, we planned a future that seemed as inevitable as sunrise, our graduation, his entry into the family business on his own terms, our wedding, the children we'd raised to be conscious of their privilege and committed to using it for good. Then, I missed my period. The pregnancy test had shown positive on a Tuesday morning in March, just weeks before graduation. I stared at the little plus sign and felt terror and joy warring in my chest. We'd been careful, but not careful enough. Now, our carefully planned future had been accelerated in ways that would test everything we thought we knew about love and commitment. I planned to tell Cyrus that evening after his economics final. I practiced the words a dozen different ways, imagining his face when I shared the news that would change both our lives forever. But I never got the chance. I woke up Thursday morning to find Cyrus gone. Not just absent from my bed, gone. His dorm room cleared out. His phone disconnected. His social media accounts deleted as if he'd never existed. The only trace he'd left behind was a note that said simply, "I'm sorry. My family has obligations I can't escape. Please forget me and build a beautiful life." I remember sitting there, staring at that pathetic note, the tears blurring the ink, and the only sound in the room was the rapid, frantic beat of my own heart, suddenly aware I was completely, terrifyingly alone. 3 days after Cyrus disappeared, the men in expensive suits arrived at my dorm room. They were lawyers, representing the Bohr family. They introduced themselves with cold professionalism, and their presence alone felt like a physical invasion. I remember the scent of their expensive cologne filling my small, sterile room, a sickening contrast to the cheap air freshener I used. Their message was simple and devastating. They didn't mince words. "Chad, excuse me, Cyrus Bohr is gone permanently," the head lawyer explained, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. "Any attempt at further contact will be considered harassment. Furthermore, any claims regarding pregnancy or paternity will be met with legal action that will utterly destroy whatever future you might hope to build, including your ability to secure a reasonable salary or complete your education." They knew. Somehow they had known about the baby before I even had a chance to tell Cyrus. I sat on the edge of my bed, my hands pressed against my stomach, feeling the tiny, invisible life inside me and the immense pressure of their power. They painted a picture of a world where I would lose everything, my scholarships, my jobs, my family's home, all because of their endless resources and their absolute determination to protect the Bohr name. I was 19 years old, pregnant, and abandoned. I looked at the lawyer's impassive face and realized this was an enemy I couldn't fight. My love story wasn't a fairy tale, it was a corporate takeover. I made the hardest decision of my life. I immediately transferred my academic credits to a state school I could afford. I packed up my few belongings over 3 long days. I remember the smell of the cardboard boxes, the quiet finality of folding my life away. I sold my cheap furniture, not wanting to carry the physical weight of my old life. I moved back to my hometown, but I didn't reach out to the few distant relatives I had. I disappeared into the anonymity of working-class life, where millionaire families wouldn't bother to look. I wanted to build a fortress for myself and my child, a place safe from the Bohr family's influence. The first few years were just a blur of survival. I raised Phoebe alone, working whatever jobs would pay the bills, waitressing, cleaning, even running a small, illegal craft stall at the weekend market. I pursued my degree part-time, taking one class at a time, often studying in the back booth of the diner after my shift while Phoebe slept in a car seat nearby. It took me 6 years to graduate. 6 long years of ramen noodles and exhaustion. But I did it. Walking across that stage, I was wearing a cheap gown and holding a diploma. Phoebe, all 2 years old, was clapping in the audience. We were both dressed in clothes from thrift stores, but we were radiating a fierce pride that no amount of Bohr money could ever buy. It was just the two of us against the world, and we were winning. 18 years later, here we were. The Pinnacle Gala email was the first crack in the fortress I had built. Phoebe had always been perceptive. Too perceptive for my peace of mind. "Mom, you're staring into space again," she said, looking up from her laptop. Her eyes held genuine concern. "Are you worried about something? Because if this is about money for a dress, we'll figure it out. Maybe I can pick up some extra tutoring sessions." "No," I said quickly, forcing myself back to the present moment. I pushed the fear back down into the pit of my stomach. "No, baby, don't worry about that. I'm just processing. This is a big opportunity." "The biggest," Phoebe agreed. Then she paused, that familiar narrowing of her eyes indicating deep thought. "But there's something else, isn't there? Something about this specific event that's bothering you." I looked at my daughter. She was brilliant, intuitive, and had inherited her father's sharp mind and her mother's ability to read people. I felt the weight of 18 years of carefully maintained secrets become suddenly unbearable. I chose my words carefully, measuring each one. The company hosting the gala, Bohr Industries. I knew someone who worked there a long time ago, before you were born. I knew I needed to give her something, a partial truth to satisfy her curiosity and prevent her from digging deeper. Someone you knew? Like a friend? Phoebe's tone was curious but not immediately suspicious. Like a friend, someone I went to college with, I replied. That was technically true. It was a long time ago. Ancient history. But even as I spoke the words, I knew there was nothing ancient about the way my heart had started racing the moment I saw Cyrus's name on that email. 18 years hadn't been long enough to forget the way he'd looked at me like I was his whole world, or the way it had felt to believe that love really could conquer any obstacle. I continued, letting the partial truth hang in the air. We were close. Very close. For about 8 months, we were in love. I thought we were going to get married after graduation. Phoebe's eyes widened with understanding, absorbing the implications. What happened? His family didn't approve of me, I said, sticking to the version of events that wouldn't destroy her faith in love. I wasn't from their world. Didn't have the right background or connections. The pressure became too much, and he chose his family's expectations over our relationship. That wasn't the whole truth, but it wasn't entirely a lie either. Cyrus had chosen his family's demands, even if the choice had been made under duress and incredible pressure. So when you see him at the gala, Phoebe said slowly, processing, it might be awkward? It might be, I admitted, trying for a dismissive shrug. Seeing someone who broke your heart, especially in a setting where he has all the power and success. But I won't let that interfere with your moment. This is about you, about your achievements, about your future. Do you think he'll recognize you? She asked finally. Maybe, I said. Probably. But it was 18 years ago, and we're both very different people now. Whatever history we had, it's irrelevant to why we'll be there. I looked at my brilliant girl, crossing the room to wrap her in a tight hug. I'm proud of you, baby. Whatever happens at this gala, you've already accomplished something extraordinary. You built success on your own terms, with your own mind and your own determination. We built it, Phoebe corrected, looking up at me with eyes that held depths of understanding far beyond her 18 years. Everything I am, everything I've accomplished. It's because you sacrificed everything to give me the foundation to succeed. This opportunity, this moment, it belongs to both of us. Meanwhile, across the city, Cyrus Bohr stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office, 40 floors above a city that had watched him build an empire from nothing. He felt the familiar emptiness that no amount of success had ever managed to fill. At 40 years old, he was everything his family had groomed him to become and nothing he'd ever wanted to be. The Bohr Industries logo gleamed in gold letters across the building's facade, representing 3 generations of wealth and influence that had finally fallen into his capable but reluctant hands. Business magazines called him a visionary. Financial analysts praised his innovative approaches to sustainable development. None of it mattered without her. 18 years, 7 months, and 12 days since he'd made the worst decision of his life. Not a morning passed that Cyrus didn't wake up reaching for Willa Bunbury's warmth beside him, only to find expensive sheets that felt cold. Not a business triumph felt complete without imagining how her brilliant mind would have improved his strategies. Mr. Bohr. Dario Cromwell's voice cut through his melancholy, followed by the distinctive click of Italian leather shoes against polished marble. Dario had been his executive assistant for 7 years, long enough to recognize when his boss was lost in memories that couldn't be shared with quarterly reports. The final details for the Pinnacle Gala, Dario continued, approaching with a leather portfolio. 5 exceptional young entrepreneurs selected from over 300 applicants. Their presentations should be quite impressive. Cyrus accepted the portfolio without turning from the window. The gala had been his idea, designed to identify and fund the next generation of business innovators. It was good for the company's image, excellent for discovering investment opportunities, and served as a convenient distraction from the hollowness that success hadn't been able to cure. The youngest presenter is particularly noteworthy, Dario added, something in his tone suggesting professional admiration. 18 years old, already generating six-figure annual revenue from her consulting firm while maintaining perfect grades in her business program. Her client testimonials are extraordinary. Cyrus finally turned from the window. If Dario was impressed, the young woman was probably worth attention. What's her background? Cyrus asked, settling behind his desk and opening the portfolio. First-generation college student raised by a single mother. Built her business from nothing while working multiple part-time jobs, Dario recited. Her approach to community-focused consulting has attracted clients from nonprofit organizations to mid-sized corporations. She's particularly talented at helping underserved businesses access markets they've never been able to penetrate. Cyrus felt a flutter of recognition, though he couldn't place why. The description reminded him of conversations he'd had years ago with someone who'd understood the human cost of business decisions in ways his privileged classmates never had. Her name? Cyrus asked, flipping through the portfolio. Phoebe Bunbury. The portfolio slipped from Cyrus's hands, sending papers scattering across his desk like fallen leaves. Bunbury. That name had haunted his dreams for 18 years. Sir, Dario stepped forward, concern evident. Are you all right? Cyrus's mind was racing, calculating dates and possibilities with the precision that had made him millions. 18 years ago, he'd left Willa Bunbury heartbroken. If she'd had a child after he left. The timeline was impossible. Dario, find me everything, Cyrus said, his voice barely above a whisper. Everything about Phoebe Bunbury. Her background, her family, her entire academic and business history. I want it comprehensive, and I want it confidential. Alone again, Cyrus gathered the scattered papers with hands that trembled slightly, studying the brief biographical information. Born April 15, 18 years ago, raised in the state capital by her mother, academic scholarship recipient, no mention of a father. April 15, Cyrus did the math twice, then a third time. If Phoebe had been born in April, she would have been conceived in July, just 1 month before he disappeared from Willa's life. The room spun around him as 18 years of suppressed emotion crashed over him like a tsunami. Not only had he abandoned the woman he loved, but he'd potentially abandoned his own child, a daughter who'd grown up without a father while he'd built an empire from guilt and grief. Cyrus's phone buzzed with a text from his current fiancée, Amara St. James, reminding him about dinner with her parents that evening. The engagement had been announced 6 months ago, a merger of two powerful families that made perfect sense on paper but felt like wearing someone else's clothes. Amara was beautiful, accomplished, and utterly lacking in anything that resembled the fire that had made him fall in love with Willa. He deleted the text without responding. The memories flooded back, the true reason for his abandonment. 3 weeks before graduation, his father, Charles Bohr, Sr., had called him home. His desk had a stack of photographs, Cyrus and Willa sharing coffee, holding hands, stealing kisses between classes. You will end this immediately, his father had said, his voice carrying the cold authority that had built an empire. Tonight, you will pack your belongings, transfer to graduate school in London, and never contact this girl again. I won't do it, Cyrus had replied, foolishly believing love could defeat money and power. I'm going to marry her. His father had smiled then, the expression of a predator. Then you'll destroy her. I've had Miss Bunbury investigated thoroughly. Her family's financial situation is precarious. Medical bills for her chronically ill grandmother, student loans that exceed her family's annual income, employment that can be terminated with a single phone call from the right person. Cyrus had stared at his father in growing horror. One word from me, his father had continued, and Miss Bunbury loses her scholarships, her jobs, and any hope of finishing her education. Her family loses their home. Her grandmother loses her medical care. Is your teenage romance worth that much suffering? Trapped between love and terror, Cyrus had made the choice that haunted him. He'd written a cowardly note and disappeared. He'd planned to return once he was stronger, more capable of protecting the people he loved, but by the time he'd gained independence, Willa had vanished without a trace. Dario returned an hour later with a thick file and the expression of someone who'd uncovered secrets too painful to share easily. Ms. Bunbury's academic records are exemplary, full scholarship recipient, Dario began carefully. Her business acumen is remarkable. She's generated over $200,000 in revenue this year alone. What about her family? Cyrus asked, dreading the answer. Raised by her mother, Willa Bunbury, currently 37 years old. No father listed on any official documents. They've moved frequently over the years. Financial records suggest they live paycheck to paycheck despite the daughter's business success. The guilt hit Cyrus like a physical blow. Willa had been working 3 jobs, waitressing at Morrison's Diner, Crystal Clear cleaning services, and tutoring, to provide for their child. Every struggle could have been avoided if he'd fought his father 18 years ago. There's more, Dario said quietly. Recent photographs of the young woman show a striking resemblance to you, sir. The bone structure, the eye color, certain mannerisms that are quite distinctive. Cyrus opened the file to surveillance photos taken at Phoebe's university. He knew with every fiber of his being, she was his daughter. Sir, Dario asked, what would you like me to do with this information? Nothing, Cyrus said finally. We do nothing. We let her have her moment, and we watch her succeed on her own merits. And afterward. Cyrus looked out the window. Afterward, he said quietly, I figure out how to earn the right to be part of their lives again. For Willa, the 2 weeks before the gala felt like a tightrope walk over an abyss. I stood in the thrift store changing room, holding up a black dress. It was beautiful, classic lines, but it would require significant alterations. Luckily, I'd become skilled at transforming secondhand finds into something that looked intentional rather than desperate. My outfit for the night was less important than making sure Phoebe had everything she needed to command that stage with confidence. Mom, did you find anything? Phoebe called from the next changing room. Maybe, I replied, studying my reflection. At 37, 18 years of working multiple jobs had left their mark, fine lines around my eyes, hands that were strong but showed the wear of physical labor, a weariness in my posture. Still, I cleaned up well, and for one crucial night, I needed to look like I belonged in Cyrus Bohr's world, even if every instinct screamed I was an imposter. Phoebe emerged in a simple black dress that transformed her from a college student to a sophisticated young professional. The dress was elegant, authoritative, exactly what a rising entrepreneur should wear. Baby, you look incredible, I said, tears pricking my eyes. Professional, confident, and absolutely beautiful. I want them to take me seriously, Phoebe said, examining herself in the 3-way mirror. Not see me as some kid playing dress-up in the adult world. Anyone who doesn't take you seriously after hearing you speak for 5 minutes is an idiot who doesn't deserve your time or attention, I said firmly. You've earned this opportunity through your own merit. As we paid for the dresses, carefully budgeted purchases that required eating ramen for the next 2 weeks but were absolutely worth it, I tried to ignore the growing anxiety. He might not recognize me. He certainly wouldn't expect me at his gala. He had no idea I'd been pregnant when he left. As we rode the bus home, Phoebe chattered excitedly about her presentation strategy and the background on the other speakers. Have you thought about what you'll do if this goes really well? I asked as we climbed the stairs to our 4th-floor apartment. If you get investors interested, if opportunities start opening up, that might change everything. Phoebe paused at our door, key in hand, and gave me a look that was both mature and heartbreakingly young. You mean, have I thought about leaving you behind when I get successful? That's not what I meant. Yes, it is, Phoebe said gently. Mom, you've spent my entire life sacrificing your own dreams so I could chase mine, but success isn't worth having if it means abandoning the person who made it possible. I don't want to hold you back, I whispered. Then we'll figure it out together, Phoebe said firmly. The way we always have. I'm not going anywhere without you, Mom. You're my family, my anchor, my best friend. Whatever comes next, we face it together. But the words only made my anxiety spike higher. In less than a week, we would be walking into a room where Cyrus Bohr would see Phoebe for the first time. If he noticed the resemblance, if he started asking questions, our carefully constructed life could fall apart in an instant. The morning of the Pinnacle Gala dawned gray and drizzling, reflecting the anxiety that had kept me awake for most of the night. I stood at our single window, watching early commuters hurry through the rain. I tried to prepare myself for seeing Cyrus Bohr again after 18 years of silence. "Mom, you're doing that thing again," Phoebe said from the kitchen, where she was managing the temperamental coffee machine. "That staring into space thing you've been doing all week. Are you okay?" "Just thinking about tonight," I said, accepting the coffee. "Making sure we haven't forgotten anything important. I've got my presentation memorized, my backup slides loaded on 3 different devices, and my business cards printed on the good paper." Phoebe ticked off items on her mental checklist. What else could we possibly need? Courage, I thought. The strength to face the past without letting it destroy the future we've built. "You're going to be incredible tonight," I said instead. "Those investors have no idea what's about to hit them." Across the city, Cyrus Bohr stood in his master bathroom, staring at his reflection and trying to convince himself that he wasn't about to make the second biggest mistake of his life. The first mistake had been leaving 18 years ago. The second might be staying in the shadows tonight when every instinct screamed at him to approach Willa and Phoebe directly. The elevator ride to his office felt endless. Each floor was another step closer to the moment when past and present would finally collide. Dario reported as Cyrus entered his office, "The venue is secure. The only last-minute change is that we've had to increase security slightly due to some additional press interest." "What kind of press interest?" Cyrus asked. "Business journals primarily, but enough attention to make the evening notable." "There's one more thing," Dario said carefully. "The youngest presenter, Phoebe Bunbury. Her background check revealed some interesting details about her family situation." Cyrus's blood turned to ice. "What kind of details?" "Nothing inappropriate for our purposes," Dario assured him. "But her mother's employment history shows a pattern of instability. Multiple jobs, frequent address changes, no significant romantic relationships documented. It suggests someone who's been cautious about putting down roots. Or someone who's been running," Cyrus thought, with growing certainty. "Someone who's been protecting herself and her daughter from exactly the kind of investigation that just uncovered those details." "Sir, are you certain you don't want me to arrange a private meeting before the gala if there are personal connections that might make the evening complicated?" Dario asked. "No," Cyrus said firmly. "Tonight is about the presenters and their achievements. Whatever personal history exists, it doesn't interfere with their professional opportunities." At 4 o'clock, Cyrus's phone rang with a call from Amara. "Darling, I'll meet you at the venue," she said. "I'm running late due to a hair appointment that took longer than expected." "That's fine," Cyrus replied, relieved. "You've seemed distant lately, distracted," Amara noted. "I hope whatever's bothering you won't interfere with tonight's success." "Nothing will interfere with tonight," Cyrus said with more conviction than he felt. "The presenters deserve our complete attention and support." At the same time, I was helping Phoebe with her last-minute presentation practice in our small apartment. "Remember to pause after your opening statement," I coached. "Let them absorb what you're saying instead of rushing to the next point." "Got it," Phoebe said. "Mom, what if they don't take me seriously? What if they see my age and assume I'm not ready for real investment? Then they're idiots who don't deserve to be part of your success," I said fiercely. "But that won't happen because you're going to walk into that room like you own it. Speak with the authority that comes from real accomplishment." The Grand Meridian Ballroom had been transformed into a temple of ambition and possibility. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors, and every surface gleamed with the kind of perfection that unlimited budgets could achieve. I stood at the entrance beside Phoebe, feeling like an actress who'd wandered onto the wrong movie set. "This is insane," Phoebe whispered, her eyes wide. "Mom, look at this place. Look at these people. I feel like I'm about to present my lemonade stand business plan to the gods of capitalism." "You belong here," I said firmly, though my own confidence wavered. "Your ideas, your accomplishments, your vision. You've earned the right to be in this room." Phoebe wore the black dress we'd found at the thrift store, altered by my careful hands, paired with borrowed shoes and my grandmother's simple gold necklace. She looked elegant, professional, and confident without arrogance. "Ms. Bunbury." A cheerful voice cut through the gentle hum of networking conversations. It was Lumira Bardot, the event organizer. "And the wonderful Phoebe. You both look absolutely stunning tonight." "Thank you," I managed. "Everything looks incredible." "Well, Mr. Bohr spares no expense when it comes to supporting young entrepreneurs," Lumira said. "He's particularly excited about tonight's presentations. I don't think I've ever seen him this invested in the success of our speakers." Phoebe's hand found mine, squeezing tight. "Is he here already?" "Mr. Bohr, I mean," Phoebe asked. "Oh yes, he arrived early to handle last-minute details. I believe he's near the bar speaking with some of our major donors." As Lumira moved away, I felt the weight of inevitability settle around us. Somewhere in this glittering crowd, Cyrus Bohr was playing the perfect host. As we moved deeper into the ballroom, my attention involuntarily scanned the crowd for a face I hadn't seen in 18 years. "Ms. Bunbury." An unfamiliar voice made me turn to find an elegant woman in her early 30s approaching. She had the kind of predatory grace that suggested old money and influence. "I'm Amara St. James. I don't believe we've been introduced." I accepted the offered handshake, noting the massive engagement ring that probably cost more than most people's cars. "I'm here with my daughter," I said carefully. "She's one of tonight's presenters." "Yes, the young entrepreneur." "How interesting," Amara said, her smile never wavering, but something cold flickering in her expression. "I have to say, I'm impressed by the diversity of tonight's speakers. It's so important to give opportunities to unusual circumstances." The casual condescension made my protective instincts flare. "I'm engaged to Cyrus Bohr, actually," Amara continued with silky smoothness. "Perhaps you know him, though I suppose your paths wouldn't naturally cross given the different spheres you move in." The words hit me like a physical blow. Cyrus was engaged. Of course he was. But hearing it confirmed, seeing the ring on this woman's finger, made something twist painfully in my chest. "Congratulations," I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. "I hope you'll both be very happy." "Oh, we will be," Amara said with supreme confidence. "Cyrus and I are perfectly suited. Same background, same social circle, same vision for our future together. It's so important to be with someone who truly understands your world, don't you think?" Phoebe appeared at my side, flushed cheeks and bright eyes. "Mom, I just met the most amazing woman who runs a non-profit focused on microlending." "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt." "Not at all," Amara said, shifting her full, calculating attention to Phoebe. "You must be the young presenter everyone's talking about. How exciting for you to have this opportunity." "Thank you," Phoebe said politely. "Family businesses can be so personal, can't they?" Amara replied, her gaze moving between Phoebe and me with calculating assessment. "I imagine your mother is quite proud of your achievements." "The proudest," I said firmly. Amara glided away. "That was weird, right?" Phoebe whispered. She seemed friendly, but something felt off. "Some people in this world use politeness as a weapon," I said. "Don't let it distract you from why we're here." Our final presenter this evening, the MC announced, represents the kind of innovative thinking and social consciousness that defines the next generation of business leaders. Please welcome Phoebe Bunbury, founder and CEO of Bunbury Consulting. The spotlight hit the stage, and my heart stopped. Phoebe emerged from the wings, poised and confident, absolutely radiant. Somewhere in the audience, a man gasped audibly, as if he'd been punched in the stomach. I was too focused on Phoebe to identify the source. I had no idea that 20 rows behind me, Cyrus Bohr had just looked into the face of his daughter for the first time. In his expensive tuxedo, Cyrus gripped the arms of his chair so tightly his knuckles went white. She was his daughter. Not possibly, not probably, but absolutely. He had missed 18 years of her life, first steps, first words, every moment that mattered. Good evening, Phoebe began, her voice carrying clearly through the ballroom's perfect acoustics. My name is Phoebe Bunbury, and I want to tell you about the difference between surviving and building something that lasts. Cyrus felt each word like a physical blow. I grew up watching my mother work 3 jobs, Phoebe continued. I learned about business strategy from seeing her juggle schedules that would break most people, about perseverance from seeing her get up every morning and do whatever it took to provide opportunities she'd never had herself. The presentation was flawless, passionate but professional, idealistic but grounded in solid business principles. She had his bone structure, but my grace. His intensity, but my warmth. My business exists because I saw other students like me, first-generation college kids who had revolutionary ideas but no roadmap for turning them into reality, Phoebe said, advancing to a slide that showed impressive growth charts. The key is understanding that underserved communities aren't charity cases. They're untapped markets with unique needs and enormous potential. The audience was completely silent. Cyrus found himself nodding unconsciously, recognizing his own evolving philosophy about corporate responsibility reflected in his daughter's words. The future of business isn't about maintaining existing power structures, Phoebe concluded, her voice ringing with conviction. It's about expanding those structures to include the brilliant minds we've been overlooking. I'm seeking investment partners who understand that supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs isn't charity. It's smart business. The ballroom erupted in applause that went on for what felt like minutes. Several audience members rose to their feet. Cyrus stood with them, clapping until his hands hurt, tears streaming down his face without regard for the 500 people who might notice his emotional breakdown. She was extraordinary, and she was his. Cyrus, Amara's voice cut through his emotional haze, sharp with confusion. What's wrong with you? You look like you've seen a ghost. Cyrus couldn't answer, couldn't look away from the stage. But somewhere in his peripheral vision, he caught sight of my familiar profile in the audience. Willa. She was sitting in the middle section, pride radiating from every line of her body. As the crowd began moving toward the adjoining reception room, Cyrus felt the weight of decision pressing down on him. The Meridian Room buzzed with opportunity as investors surrounded the evening's presenters. Cyrus moved through the crowd like a man in a trance, his eyes locked on Phoebe. She was in her element, confidently answering questions about market strategies. I hovered at the edge of the group, close enough to intervene, but far enough away to let Phoebe shine independently. Mr. Bohr, Margaret Chin called out as Cyrus approached. Wonderful event tonight, that last presenter, the Bunbury girl. Revolutionary thinking combined with solid fundamentals. Yes, Cyrus managed, his voice rough. She's exceptional. I'm thinking of making an offer, Margaret continued. 7-figure investment for 30%. What do you think? The casual discussion of his daughter's future snapped Cyrus back to the present. Darling, there you are, Amara said, appearing at his side with territorial efficiency. Several people have asked about our engagement announcement. Not now, Amara, Cyrus said quietly. What do you mean, not now? Her voice carried a sharp edge. I said not now. Cyrus's tone left no room for argument, and he moved toward Phoebe. He could hear her explaining her business model with passionate intensity. The key is understanding that underserved communities are untapped markets with unique needs and enormous potential. Miss Bunbury, he said, stepping into the conversation circle. Phoebe looked up at him with polite attention. Cyrus felt his breath catch as he met his daughter's eyes for the first time. They were his own eyes looking back at him. Mr. Bohr, she said with professional courtesy, extending her hand. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Your gala has exceeded every expectation. The opportunity is entirely ours, Cyrus said, his voice steadier than he felt. Your presentation was extraordinary. The kind of vision that comes along once in a generation. I have to give credit where it's due, Phoebe replied, blushing slightly. Everything I know about business, about perseverance, about treating people with dignity, I learned from my mother. Cyrus's eyes found mine. When our gazes met across the room, 18 years collapsed into nothing. Your mother, Cyrus said, returning his attention to Phoebe. Sounds like a remarkable woman. She is, Phoebe said with fierce loyalty. She gave up everything for me, her own dreams, her own opportunities, sometimes even meals, so I could have what I needed. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure those sacrifices weren't in vain. Each word hit Cyrus like a hammer blow, painting a picture of struggles he should have shared. Bunbury, he said, his voice beginning to fracture. May I ask you something personal? Of course, Phoebe replied, though something in his tone made her expression cautious. How old are you? Exactly. I froze in my peripheral vision, realizing he was putting together the pieces of the puzzle I had hoped would remain scattered. I'm 18, Phoebe said, confused by his intensity. I'll be 19 in April. April 15th, Cyrus's world tilted sideways. Exactly 37 weeks after he'd left my dorm room. Sir, Phoebe's voice seemed distant. Are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost. Not a ghost, Cyrus whispered, tears blurring his vision as 18 years of questions found their answer. A miracle. He looked up to see me pushing through the crowd toward them with panic written across my features. Behind me, Amara watched with growing suspicion. Your birthday, Cyrus said urgently, his voice carrying clearly enough for nearby guests to hear. April 15th, 18 years ago. That's exactly 37 weeks after I left your mother. Phoebe's eyes widened as the implication hit her. You're my daughter, Phoebe, Cyrus said, the words coming out like a prayer and a confession. I'm your father. The silence that followed was deafening, spreading outward until the entire reception room had fallen quiet. Phoebe stared at him in complete shock. I had finally reached them, frozen with devastation and relief. Is it true? Phoebe whispered, turning toward me. Baby, I said, my voice breaking. I can explain. Is it true? Phoebe repeated, stronger now, demanding answers. I looked between my daughter and the man who'd broken my heart, surrounded by 500 strangers. Yes, I whispered, the word carrying clearly through the perfect silence. It's true. The room erupted in chaos. Camera flashes exploded around us like lightning strikes as reporters materialized from nowhere. Smartphones appeared in hundreds of hands. Miss Bunbury, can you comment on why you kept Mr. Bohr's daughter secret for 18 years? Mr. Bohr, how does it feel to discover you have a child? Phoebe, did you know who your father was when you applied to speak tonight? The questions were sharp and invasive. Get away from her, I said fiercely, stepping in front of Phoebe like a shield. She doesn't owe you any explanations. Was this reunion planned for publicity purposes? Miss Bunbury, what financial support are you seeking from Mr. Bohr? Is this why Phoebe was selected to speak tonight? Family connections rather than merit? The last question hit Phoebe like a physical blow. I watched her face crumple as the achievement she'd worked so hard for was instantly reframed as nepotism and favoritism. That's enough, Cyrus roared, his voice cutting through the chaos. Security, please escort the media to the designated press area. This is a private family matter. But it was too late. The damage was done. I need to get out of here, Phoebe said suddenly, her voice tight with controlled panic. I need air. I need space. I need to think. She pushed through the crowd toward the exit. I started to follow, but Cyrus caught my arm gently. Let me, he said. Let you? You've done enough. I snapped. 18 years of suppressed fury finally finding its target. You had no right to do that to her, to us. In front of all these people. I know, Cyrus said, his face etched with regret. I know, and I'm sorry. But I couldn't let her walk away without knowing the truth. I couldn't lose her again. You never had her to lose, I said coldly, pulling my arm free. And now you've destroyed the one thing that mattered most to her, her belief that she earned her success through her own merit. The accusation hit Cyrus like a slap. But before he could respond, I was pushing through the crowd after my daughter, leaving him standing alone in the wreckage. Well, Amara's voice cut through his emotional haze like a blade. That was quite a performance. I had no idea you were such a gifted actor. Cyrus turned to find his fiancée watching him with cold calculation. This isn't a performance, Amara, Cyrus said quietly. That young woman is my daughter. The woman who just left is someone I was in love with 18 years ago. How convenient, Amara said with surgical precision. That they should both appear in your life just as our engagement is being announced. Some might say the timing is suspicious. The implication that Phoebe and I were orchestrating this for financial gain made Cyrus's vision go red with fury. Don't, he said, his voice deadly quiet. Don't you dare suggest that they're anything other than exactly who they appear to be. That woman raised my child alone for 18 years while I built an empire. That girl earned every opportunity she's received through her own brilliance and hard work. And yet here we are, Amara continued smoothly, with your newfound family drama playing out in front of every major investor. If this was a publicity stunt, it couldn't have been orchestrated more perfectly. You're throwing away our family's connections, our social positioning, the business opportunities we represent together, for what? A woman who kept your child's secret for 18 years, and a girl who may or may not actually be yours. She's mine, Cyrus said with absolute certainty. We are done. The engagement, the wedding plans, whatever future you thought we were building together, it's over. If you are still listening, please help me like this video and comment the number 1 below, so I know that you are amazing, and I understand that you are with me throughout this journey. Your help is a great encouragement, cheering me on. Please comment the number 1 so I can recognize you, and now, listen to me tell the rest of my story. Cyrus walked away from Amara's shocked face and pushed through the crowd, desperate to find Phoebe and me before we disappeared from his life again. He found us in the hotel lobby. Phoebe was sitting on a marble bench with her head in her hands while I paced nearby with the restless energy of a protective mother who couldn't fix what was broken. Phoebe, Cyrus said softly, approaching carefully. She looked up at him with eyes that were red from crying, but blazed with intelligence and hurt, and 18 years of questions that demanded answers. Why now? She asked, her voice steady despite the tears. Why did you have to tell everyone like that? Why couldn't you have found a private way to? Because I was afraid, Cyrus admitted, sinking onto the bench beside her. I was afraid that if I didn't claim you publicly immediately, you'd disappear from my life the way your mother did 18 years ago. I was afraid that you'd decide I didn't deserve to know you, that you'd choose to keep me out of your life the way I'd been kept out of it before I even knew you existed. But now everyone thinks I got this opportunity because of family connections, Phoebe said, her voice breaking. Everything I've accomplished, it's all tainted now. People will always wonder if I really earned my success or if I just had a billionaire father pulling strings behind the scenes. I'm sorry, Cyrus said, the words completely inadequate. I never thought, I didn't consider how the revelation would affect your achievements. I saw you on that stage and I realized you were my daughter and I couldn't contain the joy and the pride and the love I felt. I wanted the whole world to know that you were mine. But I'm not yours, Phoebe said quietly, looking between her parents. I'm hers. She's the one who raised me, who sacrificed for me, who was there for every important moment of my life. You're a stranger who happens to share my DNA. You're right, Cyrus said simply. You're absolutely right. I haven't earned the right to call you mine, but I'd like the chance to try. I'd like the opportunity to be the father you deserve to have all along. What if I don't want that? Phoebe asked, her voice small but firm. What if bringing you into our lives just complicates everything and makes it worse? Then I'll respect that, Cyrus said quietly. If that's what you decide, I'll stay out of your life. But I'll also spend the rest of my life making sure you have every opportunity, every advantage, every support you need to build the future you want, whether I'm part of it or not. We don't need your money, I said sharply, speaking for the first time since we left the reception. We've managed fine without it for 18 years. Have you? Cyrus asked gently. Have you really been fine working 3 jobs just to keep food on the table? Have you been fine raising our daughter alone, never getting to pursue your own dreams because you were too busy making sure she could pursue hers? Phoebe stood up with decisive movement. I need time. I need time to process all of this, to figure out what it means, to decide what I want our relationship to look like going forward. How much time? Cyrus asked. I don't know, Phoebe said honestly. Maybe a lot. Maybe forever. I'm 18 years old and I just found out that everything I believed about my identity was based on incomplete information. That's not something I can just absorb overnight. Whatever you need, however long it takes, I'll be here when you're ready. Will you? Phoebe challenged. Or will you disappear again when things get complicated or difficult or inconvenient? I'll be here, Cyrus said with absolute conviction. For the rest of my life, for whatever role you're willing to let me have in it, I'll be here. That's a promise I intend to keep no matter what. 3 weeks later, I sat in my car outside the unemployment office, staring at the eviction notice taped to our apartment door alongside a stack of tabloid newspapers. Gold Digger's 18-year secret exposed. The media attention had been relentless and cruel. Reporters had tracked down our address, called my employers, even approached Phoebe's professors. In 3 weeks, I had lost everything I'd built. Morrison's Diner fired me for bringing unwanted attention to the establishment. The cleaning company followed suit, citing client concerns about discretion. The tutoring program reluctantly let me go to avoid controversy that might affect their funding. When I finally made it home to our apartment, I found Phoebe sitting at our kitchen table surrounded by printed emails and what looked like contract termination letters. How bad is it? I asked. 3 clients have canceled their contracts, Phoebe said, not looking up. 2 others are assessing their needs, which is corporate speak for, we're dumping you as soon as we can find a legal way to do it. My business insurance company is threatening to drop coverage because they consider the media attention a liability risk. I sank into the chair across from her. Baby, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. This isn't your fault, Phoebe interrupted sharply. This is his fault. He's the one who decided to turn our private family business into a public spectacle. He's the one who couldn't wait for a private conversation. Have you heard from him? I asked. Every day, Phoebe said with a bitter laugh. Flowers, cards, emails, text messages. He keeps saying he wants to make things right and support us through this difficult time. As if throwing money at the problem will somehow undo the damage he caused. A sharp knock interrupted us. When I opened the door, I found Mavis Thatcher, my best friend, standing in the hallway with a bottle of wine and the expression of someone prepared for war. Move over, Mavis said, pushing past me into the apartment. We're having an intervention. Mavis, this really isn't a good time, I started. Actually, it's the perfect time, Mavis said, uncorking the wine with practiced efficiency. You 2 have been wallowing in misery for 3 weeks while your lives fall apart around you. It's time for some tough love. She turned to me first. You've lost your jobs because of media attention that will eventually die down. You're facing eviction because you're too proud to accept financial help from the father of your child. And you're losing your daughter because you're so busy feeling guilty about past decisions that you can't focus on making better ones now. It's not that simple, I protested. It is exactly that simple. Cyrus Bohr owes you 18 years of child support plus interest. He owes Phoebe a college fund and a relationship and all the support he should have been providing since the day she was born. This isn't charity. It's responsibility. She turned to Phoebe. And you, sweetheart, are punishing yourself and your mother for something that isn't either of your faults. Yes, the public revelation was handled badly. But you're still the same brilliant young woman who built a six-figure company before she could legally drink. That hasn't changed just because people now know who your father is. But they'll always wonder if I earned my success or if I had help, Phoebe said, her voice cracking with suppressed insecurity. Let them wonder, Mavis said fiercely. Successful women have been dealing with speculation about whether they earned their achievements for centuries. You prove them wrong by continuing to be excellent, not by hiding from opportunities because someone might question whether you deserve them. What if accepting his help changes the dynamic between us? What if it makes us dependent on him in ways that aren't healthy? I asked. Then you set boundaries, Mavis said simply. You accept the financial support you and Phoebe deserve while maintaining your independence and self-respect. You let him earn his place in your lives slowly, on your terms, instead of cutting him off completely because he handled one moment badly. I'm scared, I admitted finally. I'm scared that if I let him back into our lives, he'll take Phoebe away from me. I'm scared, too, Phoebe said, reaching across the table to take my hand for the first time in weeks. I'm scared that if I forgive him for the public humiliation, I'm setting myself up to be disappointed again. And I'm scared that if I don't forgive him, I'll always wonder what could have been. So, what do we do? I asked as Mavis poured the last of the wine. We call him, Phoebe said, her voice stronger than it had been in weeks. We set up a meeting on our terms, in a private place where we can have an honest conversation without cameras or reporters. And then we see if the man who created this mess is capable of helping us build something better from the wreckage. A few weeks later, I stood in the kitchen of the house Cyrus had bought for us. It was a warm, 3-bedroom home with a garden where I could finally grow vegetables and a front porch where we could sit together in the evenings. I marveled at how quietly happiness could return to a life that had seemed irreparably broken. The morning sun streamed through the windows, illuminating a space that finally felt like home. Phoebe sat at the breakfast table, reviewing quarterly reports. Her consulting business had not only survived the media scandal but emerged stronger. The Williams Foundation wants to extend their contract for another 2 years, Phoebe said. Turns out surviving public scrutiny and rebuilding your reputation is exactly what nonprofit organizations value in a consultant. I'm proud of you, baby, I said, pouring coffee. I learned from the best, Phoebe said warmly. How's the new position treating you? Challenging in all the best ways, I admitted. Developing community outreach programs for the foundation is everything I hoped business school would lead to. Just 18 years later. The job at the Bohr Foundation had been offered with no pressure, and I had accepted the position that allowed meaningful work with a respectable salary while maintaining my independence. He's been good to us, Phoebe said quietly. Even when we were angry and suspicious, he never stopped trying to earn our forgiveness. Cyrus's patience had been extraordinary, respecting our need for space, supporting us without conditions, slowly building genuine connections. The front door opened with Cyrus's familiar key. He appeared wearing casual clothes instead of his expensive suits. Good morning, beautiful women, he said warmly. How are my favorite people today? Caffeinated and ready to tackle the world, Phoebe grinned. Ready for the board meeting? Cyrus's expression grew thoughtful. Today we find out if the transition plan gets approved. He had been restructuring Bohr Industries for months, transitioning from CEO to chairman to focus on the foundation work and be present for his family. Whatever the board decides, we'll handle it together, I said, reaching for his hand. That's what families do. There's something I want to discuss, Cyrus said carefully, pulling out a small velvet box. I exchanged a look with Phoebe about boundaries and the delicate balance we'd achieved. 18 years ago, Cyrus said quietly, I bought this ring for a 19-year-old girl who made me believe in love and second chances. My breath caught, recognizing the ring, simple and elegant. I've carried it every day since, he continued, kneeling beside my chair. I know I have no right to ask anything. I missed 18 years of loving you both the way you deserved. But I also know love doesn't die just because circumstances try to kill it. What we had was real, and what we're building now is stronger because it's based on truth. What are you asking? I whispered. I'm asking you to marry me, Willa Bunbury, Cyrus said, opening the ring box. I'm asking to be the partner I should have been from the beginning. And I'm asking you, Phoebe, to let me adopt you officially, to give you the family name you should have had, to make us a real family in every way. I don't know if I'm ready, I said honestly. I don't know if I can trust this won't fall apart when things get difficult. Then we'll take it one day at a time, Cyrus said gently. One conversation, one decision, one moment of choosing each other over fear. What do you think, baby? I asked Phoebe. Are you ready for us to be officially a family? I've been ready since he spent 6 months earning our trust instead of demanding it, Phoebe said through tears. Having a father doesn't diminish what you and I built. It makes our family bigger and stronger. Yes, I whispered, then louder. Yes, I'll marry you. Cyrus slipped the ring on with reverent care. And yes, Phoebe said, launching into a group hug. I want to be Phoebe Bohr. I want us to be a real family. I love you both so much, Cyrus said. I love the family we're building. I love you, too, I said, the words feeling both foreign and familiar. I love who you've become. And I love having a dad, Phoebe laughed, even if he announced it in the most embarrassing way possible. Cyrus pulled out another envelope. One more surprise. Something I've been working on for months. I opened it to find legal documents establishing the Bunbury Family Foundation, focused on supporting first-generation college students and single mothers pursuing education. It's funded with $20 million to start, Cyrus explained. For families like ours. As the afternoon wore on and sunset approached, 3 people who had found each other across 18 years settled into the rhythm of family life. I can't believe this is real, I said as the sky turned pink and gold. 6 months ago, our world was falling apart. Now we're home, Phoebe said simply. All of us together, exactly where we belong. Cyrus kissed my head and reached for Phoebe's hand, connecting us in a circle of love that had survived everything designed to destroy it. Now we're home, he agreed. And we're never letting go of each other again. Love had conquered time and distance and pride and fear. Love had healed wounds too deep to mend. Love had taken a broken family and made it whole again, stronger because we'd chosen each other despite every reason to walk away. Thank you all for listening to my story. It's a messy one, full of pain and eventual triumph. If you've ever had to fight to protect your children, or if you've ever found strength after abandonment, I want to hear from you. Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel so we can continue to share these stories of resilience and second chances together. I love you all, and I'll see you next time. And so, as the sun sets on this remarkable tale, we are left with a profound reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of love and forgiveness. This story is not just about reunion, it's about the courage to confront the past, the strength to rebuild trust, and the determination to rise above adversity. Willa's unwavering dedication, Phoebe's brilliance, and Cyrus's journey toward redemption teach us that even in the face of heartbreak and loss, there is always a path to healing if we choose it. Life often tests us in ways we cannot predict, but it is in these moments of struggle that we discover who we truly are. This tale shows us the importance of valuing ourselves, staying true to our principles, and embracing second chances, not just for others, but for ourselves. It reminds us that family is not defined by perfection, but by the willingness to fight for one another, to forgive, and to grow together. Now, it's your turn. What lessons did you take away from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below, or simply comment good if this reflection resonated with you. Let's continue to inspire each other with stories of resilience, hope, and triumph.